Hi, my name is Farid Khan. I'm a storage architect with Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and today I'm joined by...
I'm Ezat Dayeh. I'm a systems engineering manager from Cohesity in the UK.
Thank you for joining us. Today's video is about ransomware and security threats. So you got your mission critical application running on Hewlett Packard Enterprise Nimble dHCI and running on the Nimble all-flash 40 array with your virtual servers and your physical servers and so on and so forth. And we have the Cohesity data platform as well to protect all that environment. And today's video is really about protecting against the security threats. So explain to me, I guess, Ezat, is how can data platform maybe protect against security threats, or what can it do?
Sure. So we actually have a three-pronged approach to looking at security threats. So the first of those is prevention. So we'll try and prevent as much as we can with regards to the data platform. The second of those is detection.
Yeah.
So the earlier we can detect something going on,
Sure.
the better. And the third prong is the response, or respond. And how do we actually deal with something once we've detected it? So from a high level, that's how we approach it.
So as you know, right, so the security threats could be coming from external sources,
Yep.
or majority of the threats come from the internal disgruntled employees and things like that.
Yep.
So let's talk about the external sources first. So let's talk about something like ransomware, your cryptoviruses out there. So it's not a question of if you're going to get infected. It's a question really of when you're going to get infected.
Yep.
I'm sure you heard about it in the news. It's all over the place. So let's just say a virus is attacking the machines, the desktop servers, wherever we have, and they maybe are looking to infect maybe the backup data that we have.
Yep.
How can we make sure that the backup data is protected so the viruses won't infect it or encrypt it?
Absolutely. So you raise a very, very good point. So malware is becoming a lot more sophisticated these days. It can lay dormant in your environment. It tries to sniff out the backups to make sure that you have no way out of it. So, you know, obviously we've thought about these kinds of things. And the first thing to talk about here is the fact that our file system is immutable when it comes to the backup data. So all the backup data that's written to our file system, we actually hide, and it's marked as read-only. Anytime we need to use that data, whether it's for recovering data or even making clones for test dev purposes, only those clones are read-writable. Everything else is always hidden away. So this stops the malware, and obviously we're not on a Windows platform, for example, so that stops malware being able to use that vector as an attack.
Okay, so excellent. So we have something that the backup data itself is read-only, so it cannot be changed or modified.
Yep.
Let's run a different scenario. Let's just say, again, talking about the disgruntled employees or internal attack. Let's say the employees has an idea where the backups are. Maybe they can delete the backups or do something with there. What can you do to protect against that?
Absolutely, yeah. So, you know, some employees, they want to do as much damage as possible, and the way that they do that is not only deleting production data, but also the backups. Yep. So to get around that, so if somebody did have access to the Cohesity platform, let's say they had a username and password, we have something called data lock. And typically, this is something that is controlled by a data security officer.
Okay.
And what this does is when I set a retention, for example, of 3 months on my data, if I want to change that retention, I'm unable to do so because it's been locked. So I can never reduce the retention. I may be able to extend it, but never reduce it. So this protects the backup data from those types of scenarios.
Excellent. So basically, an employee cannot go in and change that retention to say 1 day or 2 days from like 30 or 60 days and so on.
Exactly.
Right. So let's run another scenario where let's just say a malware does come into the environment, but instead of looking for the backup, it's actually infected the actual production machines,
Yes.
virtual machines that are running. What can we do to help with that?
Sure. So this is where I need to talk about Helios. Helios is Cohesity's cloud-based management platform.
Okay.
So if I have, for example, Cohesity deployed in London, in New York, in my data centers, maybe I have some instances running in the public cloud, perhaps some robo deployments as well. Helios gives me a single pane of management, allows me to do lots of different things. For example, non-disruptive upgrades, scheduled upgrades of clusters. I can deploy global backup policies. Now, the other thing that Helios does, though, is that it's constantly collecting metadata from every single cluster that we have in the environment. And what we're doing is that we're looking at this metadata and we're using things like AI and machine learning to detect certain anomalies. So as an example, if on average every day I am protecting, let's say I'm ingesting 100 gig of data day in and day out, and then all of a sudden, because of encryption of my production systems, my change rate now goes up massively, and I'm actually now protecting 600 or 700 gig a day. Well, that's an obvious, clue that something is not quite right in the environment. It's an anomaly in the system. Then, it's an anomaly, absolutely. I mean, that's just one example. We do use lots of other ways to detect, certain behaviors. But if I were to detect that, it's at that point that we alert the administrators, we send a proactive alert, and we say, look, we think there might be something going on. You might want to go and have a look and double check. And that's how we can basically raise it to our customers.
So let's run it back again. So basically, a virus came in, went to the environment, you're doing backups, it made a mass change, the backup detected there was some change done, Helios detected that. And now let's just say that's part of your detection phase, right? So now how do we make sure that whatever VMs are infected could be brought back online?
Sure. So, if you watch the previous videos as well, you'll be familiar with our instant mass recovery capability. So where we detect VMs that have been impacted by this situation, we actually will provide a known good snapshot or a recovery point to the end users. And so they don't have to keep searching and looking around for which point in time to recover from. And then once they do decide the recovery point with instant mass recovery, we can recover 10, 20, 50 VMs and bring them back into production almost instantaneously. So the other thing, though, as well to keep in mind is that when you do recover that data, sometimes those VMs might have vulnerabilities. Right? So that's how the malware may have got in the first place. So actually we do something else as well, and this is part of our ability to run applications on top of data platform, like Data Protect. So we have something called CyberScan.
Okay.
And what this does is it allows us to scan the virtual machines potentially on a daily basis, weekly basis, it's up to the administrator. But what this will do is it will look for any known vulnerabilities within the operating system and alert the administrators and basically let them know that actually before they put this data back into production, even though we've restored it, it's probably a good idea to patch those vulnerabilities and then bring it back into production. You can do that in an isolated network, for example.
Perfect, great. Ezat, thank you for that. So let me just summarize everything, folks. So right now we were talking about running your mission critical application on your Nimble dHCI, right? We are doing snapshots on the Nimble array itself, but you might be keeping snapshots for maybe a week or 2 weeks, right? As you know, ransomware could stay dormant for like months, and then before the attack, right, they basically try to find out where the information is, where the servers are, things like that. So since we have snapshot maybe for a week or 2 weeks, obviously data being backed up here is more important, right? So you're telling me that, okay, the file system is immutable, so basically it cannot be modified. The database or the backups cannot be deleted, which is great. We also talked about the data log, so if you have disgruntled employees, they want to maybe delete the database or the backup before they leave or before they get fired, so we can protect against that as well. We talked about the Helios, where you can have deployments as robo, as different locations, all managed on a single, under a single platform, a single pane of glass. So you can not only monitor, but you also make changes as well to the environment, and also detect any anomalies that are happening in the backup. So for instance, you said you're backing up something that took, say, 100 gig every day, and all of a sudden it's taking 700 gigs. Something happened. That was the detection piece. And how we protect against that infection is the IMR you mentioned, where we can bring everything back online from the backup. production is back up and running, and we motion everything back to Nimble array itself. And the cyber scan really is if you don't want to run the scan, let's just say you have antivirus running in your production, and you're not able to run full scan every day because it's basically putting a lot of stress on the environment, you could run the antivirus on the actual backup here, the VMs that are running the backup, to detect any anomalies or even any viruses, so that way your production doesn't get affected by that scanning process.
Yeah, so we do both antivirus and vulnerability scanning as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching the video, guys. This is the third video in the series Ezat and I did. Please make sure to watch the other videos as well.